So today we will discuss about just brief introduction about my session and what all the things I have covered in my session. Those things I will discuss in details. So I am the real-time working guy. I am working in the same platform, and what I faced during my the Kubernetes journey. So those things I have covered in this session, like what type of issue I was facing in my project. So what type all the challenge I face, what are the day-to-day tasks in Kubernetes, what type of requirement, where how many clusters I have managed. So those things I have covered in this session. So apart from the live troubleshooting, I have covered some advanced topic which are generally used in our project for the Kubernetes environment. So first I will discuss about all the component of master and worker node, what is rancher, how to how to set up the rancher, how to add a cluster into the rancher, how to set up the alert for the cluster. Generally in the environment we have 100 plus cluster or 100 plus Kubernetes cluster. So it's very hard to manage, like if any issue happen, then it's very hard to manage to check manually. So I have set up the alert so that if any issue happen, then we will get the notification over the mail. So those things I have covered in this session, like how to set up the alert for the cluster and how many types of service in cluster. So generally three types of service: cluster IP, node port, load balancer, and the engine's ingress controller. So for engine's ingress control, I have explained like how to set up engine's ingress controller, how do we set up through the Helm, what is the storage class, how to add, what is persistent volumes, persistent disk PVC, how to add the persistent volume into the existing application. Suppose your application using the persistent volume and they have consuming 150 GB, and out of 150 GB 130 GB has been occupied. So how do we extend the persistent volume? So what are the pre-tasks post-start to extend the existing persistent volumes? So how to take the backup of entire namespace in Kubernetes? How do we migrate the namespace from one cluster to another cluster? And how do we how to set up the private repository so that we can manage all the images? And how do we upgrade the cluster? So that's a very important thing. The interview asked to tell me about your upgradation part, like have you done the upgradation, which version you have upgraded, and what are all the challenges you have faced. So those things I have covered, like I have already done some batches. So I have take the recorded session, so you can see it here, like how to set up the backup and how to set up the backup uh, and in the namespace. So this is the architecture diagram, how it works, where we have to set up the value row on the source cluster and the destination cluster, where we have to manage the storage account S3 bucket, where we can store our backup data. So you can see it here. So in this session, I have covered some how to take the backup, how to restore the backup. So some are like how to upgrade the AKS cluster. So those things I have covered, like how to upgrade the cluster. This is the older version, and when we were, what are the command to run to get which version first we have to upgrade. Okay, so once I ran the command and we will get this output, like your current version this one, and you have to upgrade up to this one and this one. So which one first I have to upgrade? So those thing we will cover in, I have covered in this session, and I will explain it very from the scratch, from the beginning level, like what are the pre-tasks, what are the post-tasks after the upgradation, and what which scenario the upgradation has been failed. So those things I have already explained it in this way, in this session. So what are the day-to-day tasks? So you can see it here, day-to-day tasks in Kubernetes environment. So those things I have covered in this session. What are the day-to-day tasks in the Kubernetes environment when we play? So I have explained in the because the most of the candidate doesn't have real-time exposure in the Kubernetes. So So after this, like you can make it, you can mention in your resume that you have already worked in the past 2 years in Kubernetes, and I will share you the sample resume so you can pick up the content from a sample resume and you can mention in your resume, and you can explain it like what you have done in Kubernetes. I have already taken the session on this, like what are day-to-day tasks in Kubernetes, and I have another session also like interview preparation. Like the first question of interview is like, tell me about yourself, tell me about your project. So those things I have also covered in the next session. Like let me show you. So in this session, tell me brief introduction about Kubernetes. So that's a very important session. Like in this session, I have covered about like I'm working with this company from past 3 years. I have managed 30 plus AKS cluster, each cluster having approach. So similar way, I have covered all the details in this session, like what you have to tell to the interview about the Kubernetes infrastructure, Kubernetes project, your day-to-day tasks, your challenges, what type of issue you have worked on. So all the things I have covered in this session. So and apart from the advanced course, so this is the advanced course what I have covered. So like you can go through it the topic wise, and this topic I have covered in this session, like yeah, real time issue. So in this session, you can see it like how to set up backup restoration, how to set up AKS cluster and troubleshoot, what is private repository, how do we done the AKS upgradation, what are the challenges I faced during the upgradation, how to set up brancher. So the license of SSL certificate. So this is also the day-to-day task. Some SSL certificate has been expired. So how do we renew it? What are the process to generate the new SSL certificates? So those things I have covered in this session, real-time issue Kubernetes. And apart from the advanced course, I have created separate session for the live troubleshooting. Like some pod having image pullback of error, some pod having PVC stuck in terminating stage, some application URL down. If you go to here, so when I am trying to access the application, at the time it is showing. So this site is cannot be reached because suppose this is the application you are, suppose this is the flipkart.eu for flipkart.com or any application you are, that's are down. So what are the way to fix the issue? I have explained in this way what we have to check in the deployment manifest file, which service I have to check, which label and select I have to change, and we have to check which service I have used. So in this session, I have covered all the things, like if you are down, what are the things we have to first check, what are the way of troubleshooting. So if you go there at the end of session, now you can able to see that UR is up and running after the fixing the issue. Now the earlier this Tomcat application was down, now it is up and running. So in this session I have covered all the thing, all the scenario, like what are the way of troubleshooting, what are the way to fix the issue, and those things I have covered in this session. So similar way, if we go it here, some pods are stuck in pending state. So due to node had volume, node infinity and conflict. So if you go it here, you can see it here. So you can see it here, the pod are in pending state. You can see that the SQL pod are stuck in pending state. When we describe the logs, when we check the logs and found there's some node affinity error. You can see it here, some node affinity. So this type of issue what I face in my project. So based on that, I have set up the issue, I have set up the lab, and I have created the issue on my labs, and then I will provide the root cause of the issue, what is the root cause of this issue, and how do you fix those issues? Those things I have covered in my session. So once you go it here at the end of session, now you can see it here, the pod is up and running. You can see it here. You can see it here, the SQL pod earlier it was in pending state, now it is in running state. So I am using the Azure AKS as a platform for the Kubernetes. So but the rest all are the thing the same, like all the troubleshooting command, all the troubleshooting we can face in all the environment. Like if you are a Kubernetes cluster running on Azure, if your cluster running on AWS, if your cluster running on Google Cloud, the only here the platform is changed wherever Kubernetes cluster is running, but rest are all the common for all the platform, because when we ran kubectl get pod, so this command will run all the environment. Okay, so this is not basically for the Azure AKS. You can like you can like you can also make a similar way, like what are those command kubectl log, kubectl describe, what are the way of troubleshooting. You can like uh, say common, and you can segregate with the other cluster, other platform. Okay, so here in the live troubleshooting I have 23 video in this live troubleshooting playlist. So you can go it here, how do we extend persistent volume and day-to-day tasks in Kubernetes, cluster showing unavailable in the rancher, persistent volumes, how to add persistent volume on existing application. So your application already running, so how do we add application in the existing application. So those things I have covered in this session. If you go here, so you can see wait a minute. So you can see a few pods are in failed state, and what is the reason, how do you fix the issue. If you see here, a lot of pods are in failed state, they are out of CPU. So what are the command to delete all the failed pod in one single command? So it's very hard to delete manually each and every pod. So you have to use this command, kubectl delete pods -f field selector status phase failed. So it will delete all the failed pod which is inside the cluster. So you can see it here, the count is 44, 33 pods are there. So once we run this command, then it will delete each and every pod. You can see the count is decreasing continuously. So similar way, I have a lot of issue here, like sometime how do we extend the persistent volume. Pods are stuck in pending state, pod are getting crash loop backup state. Here you can see it here, few pods are in crash loop backup state. You can see that most of the application are running is there, but this Tomcat application are in crash loop backup state. So what the things we have to check, what how to check the log, because when we check the log, there is 1,000 and 2,000 entries are there. So how to read the logs, like how to filter the logs, how to search, how to find the log with the keywords, so that we can bypass all the unwanted logs. So those things I have covered in this troubleshooting session. Like here earlier, this pods are in crash loop backup state, some pods are in OM kill error. So how do we fix the issue? So here the crash loop back. So after the end of session, I have fixed those issues. So now you can see it here, the Tomcat application is up and running. So earlier it was in crash loop backup state, some pods are in pending state, some pods are in OM kill error. So those things I have covered in my session, apart from the advanced topic, I have covered the 20 plus live troubleshooting, which is common in all the platform. Like if you use AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, the troubleshooting steps are similar in all the platform. So most of the candidate having just thus the theoretical knowledge of Kubernetes, they can learn it from Udemy, YouTube, or any institute. but they doesn't have the real-time exposure, like what are the day-to-day tasks in the Kubernetes project, what type of challenges, what type of issue generally we encounter, the generally we face in the project. So they doesn't have any idea about it. So this session is very useful for those candidates who are already like preparing for the interview, and they have unable to, and they have didn't have any real time exposure. So you can refer my video, my session. Like in this session I have covered the fully real time based and the issue list, because the interviewer generally asks about the scenario based question and the real time issue, and so that you can pick up from my 20 plus live troubleshoot, you can pick up from 8 to 10 issue and you can explain it very well. Like yes, I have worked on this issue, and I have provide the I have fixed the issue with this command, with this troubleshooting structure. Like first we have to suppose your pod having image pullback of error, but our image are already present in the container registry. Your image and the tag all are present in the repository, but still I am getting the image pullback of error. Let me show you. So in this session you can see this is my image are already present. You can see here this is the ACR repository, the tomcat and 8.0. You can see it here, the path of the private repository is tomcat 8.0. If you go it here in the pod manifest, so I have to run kubectl edit pod and the pod name and hyphen name space tomcat. So you can see it here. You can see it here in the under the specs container and the image. You can see it here, the image path is correct. Like I have defined the repository name, then after I have defined the image name, then after I have defined the tag version. So you can see it here, this is the repository. You can find it like prod ACR repo tomcat and the 8.0 is the tag version, but still I am getting the image pullback of error. If you go it here, so you can see it here, image pullback of error. So this is the scenario based. The interview asks you your image, your tag are already available in the repository, but still you are getting image pullback of error. What is the root cause and how do you fix the issue? So those things I have explained in this session, and now you can see it here after this end of session. You can see it here, the issue has been resolved. Now the pod web app is up and running. Earlier it was having the image pullback of error, now it is up and running. So this is the all the real time based which I face in my production environment. So you can explain it in very easy way, like you can pick up 10 to 8 to 10 issue from my quantity list, and you can explain it way what is the root cause and how to fix those issues. Okay, so and apart from that, I have created two sessions about your interview preparation, like tell me about yourself of Kubernetes and day-to-day tasks, and I will explain you our Kubernetes infrastructure details, because sometimes the interview asks me, you tell me about your infrastructure details, like how many cluster you have, which cluster version you are working, which monitoring tool you are working, and what are the which type of application you have managed, what are the team size, how many worker nodes are there, what are the version of the Kubernetes cluster, which logging tool you are using, which backup tool you are using, and how do we set up the monitor and monitoring and alerting over your cluster. And those things I will give you the infrastructure detail. Also I will show you the document. So I have the scenario based question also. I have, like you can see it here, 15 plus. I will share with you the scenario based question. Suppose that how do we upgrade the cluster with zero downtime, because when we will upgrade, worker node will be drained out and all the pod will be migrated to another node. In this case, your pod will be restarted and scheduled into the another pod during this period of application will be down. So how do we upgrade the cluster with zero downtime? So in this way, I have collected the 15 plus issue, the scenario based question, and I have 50 plus interview question. So you can see it here. This is the 50 plus interview question. So those I will share with you, and I will share with you the resume preparation. Like I will share with you the sample resume, so you can pick up the content and you can paste into your resume. And so this thing I will like cover in my session. So if you need more details on this, then you can ping me on my WhatsApp number. So you will get the more information about my sessions, about my course. Okay. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. So kindly subscribe my channel so that you will get any other videos. You will get a notification. So thanks for watching, and this is very helpful for those candidates who are looking for the job change, but they want get a real time exposure in the Kubernetes environment. Okay, so for that you have to refer my videos. All are based on the real time session, and I will explain all the advanced topic also, like